So from my perspective, it's fabulous. When I entered the venture industry in '07. In '08, when the crash happened, the angel industry was decimated. And so for us, we do some seed, but we do mostly Series A and Series B. So you want this really great crop of early stage companies to be sort of brought along. So the more early stage companies there are, the better the venture environment overall. So I think it's fabulous.
Go ahead.
I think it basically gives entrepreneurs an ability to reach a vast network of angel investors. When I started investing in Web2 back in 2004, there was basically maybe a handful or two handfuls of us sort of doing those deals. So it was easy for us to coordinate and work together on building something. I think that now having AngelList is a great solution for rounds which are already anchored to be, fulfilled or filled up. The issue sometimes I have is if you have a company which has a bunch of random guys coming together to support it and there's no clear lead, then it's not clear to me as to who does the job to support the entrepreneur as an investor. And if ever things don't work out as planned and they never do, then it's not clear as to what the ownership is in the support. Because I've seen some of those rounds where I ask, okay, who's helping? And people start pointing to each other as, well, it's him. Because there wasn't a clear ownership in the round saying, I'm putting the terms together, I am pricing, and then you guys can come along. And typically, entrepreneurs these days have the luxury of choosing who they will let in their deals on the basis of the value that each investor will bring and to deliver. So that's a good thing.
I think Jeff's point's are really important. In fact, what you might want to talk about is the difference between like the work you get called on to do versus just writing the check. Because I think that's one of the things that people don't understand is the work that Jeff's talking about is like it's critical actually in helping shape the company and get the company ready for a future round or an acquisition or for growth.
So basically, very early on, when we get the call to look at a company, we love AngelList. We look at everything coming on AngelList, but we see things mostly before AngelList sort of does. And so what we help doing is identify the strength and potential weaknesses of the company and trying to figure out what is the course that we're going to have to plot for the team to execute on over the next 18 months, because that's typically for us the runway that the seed round will provide. And we say, hey, this is the kind of milestone that we know we'll need to meet, to get to the next round of financing done. So we'll try and lay those principles in the ground early on, and then we'll say, based on the team, the opportunity, the product, those are the kinds of investors that we'd like to see coming alongside us. We being the lead, the co-lead, or even participating in the round. And so identifying early the support infrastructure that you need is really critical in my book. And AngelList is great because it gives you access to 500, 600 really smart investors, but not all investors are equal, and not all investors will provide the same level of support. And if you look at different things, I see an early stage company as a building, and a building with a bunch of holes. You try and have your investors help filling those holes temporarily. And so not every hole is filled by the same type of investor. And we try and sort of identify that. And we actually never use AngelList to fill up all around because we told people specifically because of the valuation.
So I guess we're back to extremely practical advice. Essentially, everybody in the room would like to pitch to you. It is. So everybody wants to pitch to you, and when you get out here on stage, what is the best advice? My guess is they shouldn't stop talking to you for 10 minutes just when you get out here. So what should they do?
So as far as I'm concerned, I can tell you already, I double booked myself, so I have to run to San Francisco for another panel, so I'm out of here by 10 to 6. So no need to mug me. But
I have a cell phone number if anyone
And the trick is that actually replying to our calls, so it works. The best way to get our attention, and that's true for any of us, is to figure out in our network who you know can basically make a very warm intro saying this is why this person is interesting for you to meet and this is why the company is interesting. And we'll take that, think of it as us getting 350 deals a month, of which we'll meet maybe with 10%, of which we'll meet with, we'll actually sort of diligence on 5%, and we might actually fund 0.5% or 1%. So getting our attention is actually pretty important because unfortunately, my inbox is full of deals that I received 3 to 4 months ago. And I would love to answer everyone's emails and say, thank you for writing us and we appreciate it, but it's not really sort of the thing that we do. I just won't have the time because my focus and attention is on my companies, the ones I will invest in or the ones I've invested in. And so getting that critical control is actually really important.
Yeah, that's very well put. And the other thing that I found is that sometimes people will like rush me and try to say as many words as possible in 30 seconds. And I never remember anything of what any of those people have ever told me in 15 years of investing experience, ever. So that's like a critical mistake. I'm not going to understand what you're going to try to tell me in 30 seconds at a presentation or at a conference or at any public place. The best thing you can say is, hey, is it okay if I'm working on an area X, do you have interest in the area? And then the answer is either yes or no. And then the next right thing to do is say, I'm going to send you an email with a summary or a presentation, and it would be great if you could get back to me. And people usually will. I think one of the things that's not well understood on the part of entrepreneurs and in terms of new entrepreneurs is that we are just absolutely slammed with the amount of email that we get. Every day I get 5 to 10 new startups introduced by my network plus others. There's no possible way I can meet with every one of those companies. And it's a real personal frustration of mine, but I'm limited by just human limits of space and sleep
So let me hack the system here for a second. If I just email you tomorrow saying that we chatted briefly at the conference after you talked,
yeah.
it's completely not true. So can we just get actually trying to talk to you right now and just pretend it did?
Sure. It works just as well. But for some reason, people always feel obligated to give me their business card. I don't know why, because I don't do anything with the business cards. They don't really mean anything. So the best thing is to send an email that's a very clear email that has a summary and hopefully some kind of short deck just introducing the company. And then either the investor is interested in the idea or they're not. And if they're not, then you should move on and talk to someone else.
Well, and the key thing too is do your homework. When I will pay attention to a deal is when they say, oh, I saw this blog post you wrote on financial services or healthcare IT, or getting introduced from somebody at one of our portfolio companies is, I think, by far the best way. It doesn't have to be the CEO, right? We know a lot of other people in our portfolio companies, and having that just introduction, it doesn't have to be the CEO, it doesn't have to be another VC, but somebody in our network. And then finding, this is true of any networking, finding a common connection point is so important. I just met somebody out in the hallway and I talked to him for probably 20 minutes. He happens to be from Missouri working with Kauffman, which is where I started my career. So it was interesting, and that commonality or that connection point to get somebody to sort of talk to you and hear you out, I think is really very important. And it doesn't have to do with exactly what we're investing in, but some point where we have a common ground to discuss things in any scenario is very important. And then the other thing too is one step beyond that is when we do want to talk to you, show us what you're doing quickly. We see so much, and it's just rapid fire. If you have to explain the market opportunity to us for 10 slides or even 5 slides, we're not going to invest in the deal, right? You have to have a shake in your head and just get to the demo and get to what you're doing to solve the problem. If we have questions, we can work backwards from that. But I think you want to get to that very, very quickly. And I think so many people want to kind of walk us through this painstaking, here's the problem, here's the market, here's the opportunity, and we want you to get to the punchline, and we'll work backwards.
Okay, let's get our first panelist. Whoever is ready to go. Which price? Do you have the slide up?